Today we are about to witness the most epic chess showdown you don't want to miss. NBA superstars Luka Dončič and Jaylen Brown are facing off not on a court but on a chessboard. Let the chess battle begin. So Jaylen Brown has the white pieces and Luka Dončič will play him with the black pieces. So let me show you what happened in the game. Jaylen Brown played the move pawn to c4, known as the English opening, of course to controlling the d4 square, and maybe he will play the move pawn to d4 in the future, and this will be a regular queen's gambit. So against c4, there are many possibilities. You can play knight to f6, you can play knight to f6, you can play e5, you can play c5, or you can play a sideline that Luka chose to play. He played the move pawn to c6, of course trying to retranspose to the Karo Khan, which is after e4 to play c6 and after d4 to play d5. So after pawn to c6, of course there are many options how white can play. He can play d4 and retranspose into the queen's gambit, or he can play the move pawn to e4. That is what Jaylen has played, the move to pawn to e4, and after pawn to e4, black simply plays the move pawn to d5, and after e takes d5, c takes d5, you can see that now the best move for white is to play the move pawn to d4, and taking this pawn is not really good, because not only are you isolating the d2 pawn, but of course black won't take the pawn with the queen, allowing knight to c3, but he will play the move knight to f6, and then he will recapture the pawn with his knight. So after the move c takes d5 from Luka, Jaylen has played the move pawn to d4, and this is the main line exchange variation of the Karo Khan. This is actually the Pano Botvinnik attack, and after d4 there are many lines. You can play either knight to f6 or knight to c6, but Luka played the move knight to f6, the main line, simply defending the d5 pawn, and after knight to c3 there are many lines as well. You can play either e6 or knight to c6. Bishop g4 in this position is not particularly good, because after queen to b3 will probably lose a pawn. So Luka chose to play the move pawn to e6. Of course, now this bishop on c8 is, as you can see, kinda stuck, because this pawn on e6 won't go to e5, and this diagonal will not ever open up for this bishop. But of course, if white were to take in this position, black would simply take back with a pawn maybe, and then the diagonal would be open. So this bishop is kinda bad bishop, like in the French defense, but maybe it will get some good squares in the position. So after e6, this is still theory, as you can see. Knight to f3 is the main move, and after bishop to e7, black is simply trying to castle. Black will develop with the move knight to c6, and maybe play a6, and after takes, he will play b5 and then bishop to b7. This is his plan. And Jaylen Brown here played the move c takes d5, following the mainline theory, and Luka recaptured with his knight. This is still the main line of the Pano Botvinnik attack. And after bishop to d3, now you can see that Jaylen has developed this bishop to this long diagonal, of course in some positions pressuring the h7 pawn. And this is still theory. After Luka played the move knight to c6, both players simply castled, and after rook d1, bishop to f6, of course attacking the d4 pawn. This is the end of the theory, I think, and there are many good moves in this position, but Brown has chose to play the move knight takes d5, and now you can see this crucial idea in the position is not to take with the queen, but is to take with the e pawn, of course opening up this diagonal for the c8 bishop that used to be the worst piece on the chessboard for black, but now it has some decent squares. Maybe bishop g4 will be good, or maybe even g6 and bishop to f5 will be playable. So after e takes d5, now here is where Jaylen has made first big mistake. He played the move knight to g5. He was of course relying on some tactics, but of course, as you can see, the knight on g5 is simply hanging, and after bishop takes g5, now you can see that white has some attacking chances, but if black plays perfectly, he will be fine. And of course, the move I'm talking about is to play the move queen to h5. This is a very good move from Jaylen, but of course, black has some chances to survive this attack. Of course, I think the best move in the position is simply to play the move pawn to h6. That is what happened. Luka played the move pawn to h6, but of course, Jaylen was threatening mate in 1. Of course, the pawn on h7 was hanging, and of course, he was as well attacking the g5 bishop. So something like g6 would not have worked out for him, because after queen takes g5, the trade happens, and of course this pawn is hanging. But I think piece up is much better than just a pawn up. So after knight to g5 here, he made big mistake, because after bishop take g5, after queen to h5, there is, as I mentioned, this move pawn to h6. This is of course the best move, over protecting the g5 bishop and not allowing any checkmate ideas on h7. So after h6, he simply played the move f3, and as you can see, all of the diagonals for the queen and all of the escape squares for the queen are of course taken over by black's pieces, and so the best move by far in the position is to play the move pawn to g6, and now white is forced to sacrifice the bishop after bishop takes g6, f takes g6, queen takes g6, and of course forced king to h8. Of course, after g6, there is no escape square for the queen, and maybe he could play bishop takes g5, of course attacking the queen on d8, but then just trade would have happened and black would be completely winning. So he simply sacrificed the bishop, and after all the trades happened, this is the position. And of course, black has great winning chances, because there is no perpetual check. Of course, this pawn on h5 on h6 is defended by this g5 bishop. Very important detail. If this bishop was, I don't know, back on e7, then queen h6 and queen to g6 would simply be a threefold repetition, and the game would be drawn. So after king to h8, now white played the move rook to b8, and after queen to f6, queen to d3. Now you can see that, but the best move by far again is to play the move bishop to f5, just skewering the rook on b1, of course attacking the queen, and then the rook will fall. So after bishop f5, Jaylen has played the move queen to a3, and here simply black takes the rook on b1, and after trade occurs, bishop takes g5, queen takes g5. Now Jaylen should take the bishop, but he played the move queen to b3. Of course, the position is completely lost, so it doesn't quite matter. So after queen to d2, rook to g8, of course, firstly attacking the g2 pawn, threatening mate in 1, and Brown has played the move pawn to g3. Maybe pawn to g4 would be better, but of course the position is completely lost. So after queen to d2, now I don't know why Jaylen didn't took the bishop on b1, but of course he played the move rook to f1, and after bishop to d3, he simply played the move rook to f2, and after queen to e1 check, now we can see that this bishop is simply now going to move, for knight to b4 will be played. So after knight to b4, now of course a3 probably is the best move, kicking out the knight, and then the bishop will fall, but of course the position is completely lost, and after queen to c3, he simply offered a queen trade. So after trade of queens, now we can see that black is simply too much material up, and after knight to c2, rook to d2, bishop to h7, now we can see that position is completely lost, and black will soon checkmate white. So after rook to e2, rook a to c8, of course attacking the c3 pawn, and after rook to e6, now Luka simply takes the pawn on c3 with the move rook to c3, and after rook to e5, rook to f8 was played, and after king to g1, now black simply plays the move bishop to g8, of course protecting the pawn. Of course, maybe knight to d4 firstly was a bit better, but after g4, knight takes d4, now rook e7, and after knight takes f3, the position is completely lost. There will be checkmate soon, and after king to f2, d4 has been played, and after h3 knight to d2 check was played, and after king e2 knight f1, now you can see that checkmate will occur simply very fast, because all the diagonals towards the king are open, and these rooks will checkmate white in a few moves. So after a3 now, there is simply mate in 3 now, because after bishop to d5, well, this wasn't the best move. The best move was to play the move pawn to d3, and after king to d1, bishop b3, and of course now the only move is to play here. And where is the checkmate? The checkmate is rook to c1, as you can see. So after a3, there was simply mate in 3, but Luka has played the move bishop to d5, and after king e1, rook to c1 check, now you can see after king to e2, the best move in the position is to simply checkmate white with the move bishop to c4 checkmate. So in this epic chess showdown, Luka has beaten Jaylen Brown, and let me know in the comments if you like the video, and if you like the video, make sure to subscribe to follow more such content, and see you guys in another video.